we're currently in the midst of fall, and you're starting to see those autumn leaves hitting the ground, but you might not have to rake them up just yet. There might be a lot of purposes to keeping those leaves on the ground. And here to tell us more, we have Water Resources Commissioner with Oakland County, Jim Nash, to tell us more. Jim, thanks so much for joining us today.
Oh, glad to be here. I appreciate you having me.
Glad to have you with us. And I'm very curious about this conversation because as a kid, I've always been told once those leaves start to hit the ground, you rake them up. But you're saying that might not be necessary. So what are some of the purposes of leaving these fallen leaves?
Well, this is information from the U.S. Department of Agriculture. They talk about these kind of things, and we do public education. That's one of the major things that my office works on. It's basically self-mulching because they over the winter they'll break down and start to become part of the soil, and even if they're in this late spring, you rake them up and get rid of them. They've had times for the animals over the winter to winter, so they can survive. They're small insects and small animals will come out in the spring. So this is good for your gardens. It's good for your lawns, especially around the edges of lawns. That way you're keeping those healthy biomes. From the microscopic to the little critters that are running around. It's healthy for the environment, and in the long run, it's healthier for your yards.
That's very interesting. A lot of great benefits to leaving those leaves on the ground. So you talked about leaving them as like soil or a natural fertilizer. What's the difference in utilizing these leaves than it might be for some other types of fertilizer?
Well, whenever you're doing natural, you don't have to worry about ingredients put in it. You don't have to worry about where it was coming from. The cost of producing it. You're doing it yourself. It's part of nature. This is what keeps plains going. The trees, as you don't want them knee deep, but the trees going that release these leaves. It's part of nature. It's their own recovering into the soils. We have a lot of issues with soils. We're losing topsoils all over the world, and anything we can do to make sure that we're keeping those healthy biomes underneath the leaves, it's a good thing. And the less tilling you have to do, the better. All these things are better for the biome in the soils and above it.
That's absolutely right. A lot of great benefits for those soils. Jim, is there anything recently that you have learned that maybe you weren't previously aware of in terms of the benefits with these leaves?
Well, I'm always learning. As long as I'm breathing, I'm learning. We're always finding new things, and this was a new, output from the agriculture department. So this is something that, whenever we're seeing something that can benefit folks, and we can reach out and show them how it works. This was on our Facebook page. We do a lot of other social media, and again, we do education programs from 4th and 5th graders to adults, and this is the kind of thing that we can talk about.
That's great to see, and a lot of great education opportunities, because this is certainly educating myself, and I'm sure this will educate everyone who watches this as well. So I just want to be absolutely clear with some of this. So you're saying maybe don't pick up any of those leaves throughout the fall season? Is that what you're saying?
Again, I would focus on gardens and around the edges of your yards and around the house, because it's insulating too. And around anything that can benefit from that, basically. Again, if you have 500 trees in your yard, you don't want to be knee deep in leaves, but it's good to leave some as cover on the ground. So that's basically what they're saying.
Okay, that makes sense, but that also might be bad news for some of those kids hoping to get out of those chores of raking the leaves. Sounds like they do still have some work to do. I'm speaking with Water Resources Commissioner for Oakland County, Jim Nash, talking about some of the benefits of using those fallen leaves as a natural soil to help out your lawns and your gardens at home. Now, I want to talk about maybe what happens after the fall season and after the winter season. Once that snow starts to melt, what would be the next steps to those leaves that are still on the ground?
I would say pretty much whenever you can, leave them. Especially in a garden, if you're between leaves, I mean between plants, you can put these. They also help actually shield for the growth of weeds coming up in a place where you don't want them, because it shades it and it doesn't let them get as much light, so it kind of reduces the weeds between them. And again, whenever you're doing this, because they'll be partially whatever you want to clean up off the yard in the spring, that's good for composting because it's had a chance to already start that breakdown process. There's several different things you want to have in that kind of process. You want to have grass clippings because that's got more carbon and nutrients, and leaves, and then you mix in vegetables from your house to put in that. So that's the kind of thing you can do with that in the longer term. Because I would encourage everybody to do compost.
Wow. So it sounds like you're saying maybe to hold on to these leaves for as long as you can and to get as much use out of them as possible. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah, it makes for better soil for when you want to add soil in a coming year. You'll have something to use, especially with composting, but also keeping those leaves on the ground. They'll just become dirt over a year, another year or two, and so it'll put layers of nutrient-rich dirt on top of what you already got.
That's great. It's like that old saying, one man's trash is another person's treasure, and there's always a benefit to something. Maybe once its original benefit might be past its time. So, Jim,
Yeah.
what's it been like to, because you talked about some of these education programs, what's it been like to educate the greater Oakland County about some of these ways and some of these resources?
Oh, absolutely. We do, again, fourth and fifth graders, we have watershed festivals. One is for the Clinton River watershed. It's at Oakland University. The other one is for the Rouge River watershed, and that's at the um, Science Institute at Cranbrook. And we have between the two, we have 2,500, 3,000 kids a year go through that. And they learn all about the environment, all about what we do, all about protecting the water resources and all those kind of things. We have stations from organizations all over the region, state, federal, nonprofit. We also do high school program, introducing high school students to what we do as an industry and how we're protecting the environment and doing that and addressing climate change. And then for adults, we have all kinds of things. We have programs for speeches. I give library talks. I go to religious groups, libraries, civic groups. We talk about green infrastructure, all the things we're doing to address climate change. So these are the kind of things that we do for education for everybody, basically, you know, fourth grade to adult.
Wow, that is so many great opportunities to help get Oakland County informed. I always love to hear it. Jim, I know you're a busy guy. I got one more question for you before we let you go. Where can people go to maybe get some of this quick information so that people can be fully up to date with what to do with their lawns and with their soils?
Well, you can go to our Facebook page, Oakland County WRC. At Facebook. You can go to our website, oakgov, oakgov.com/water. We have a wealth of information, anything you want can think of about water, protecting the environment, green infrastructure, all the things we're doing regionally to address all these situations we have. Lead lines, affordability, all the different things that we work with every single day with communities all over the region.
So many great information, opportunities, and resources right at your fingertips. Water Resources Commissioner for Oakland County, Jim Nash. We thank you so much for your time today.
Well, I appreciate you having me.